my community posts that I'm doing the time dilation math for the 100. I want to say I came out from that calculation with something, like I didn't completely come out empty-handed. I didn't really come out empty-handed, but what I've got over here has a lot of discrepancies. I mean, there are discrepancies on the series, not in the calculation. But first things first though, welcome back guys to another one of my The 100 videos and my talk about multiple things, including explainers to the last statement said by Octavia on season 6, and of course the time dilation math. That's what I'm going to start with, that's what I'm going to focus on for the majority of this video. But alright, let's check out what we've got over here. The first discrepancy comes out of episode 8 of season 6. At the minute 35:07, I'm watching on Netflix by the way, so it may vary by a few seconds, give or take. But yeah, Dioza walks into the anomaly at that moment. Octavia follows right through, like 6 seconds later. That's part of the math not adding up, but this is not really the worst part. So I'm really gonna talk about that part of the calculation, but then I'm gonna scrap it to a possible mistake. Either this calculation or the other. The third one is really the major problem. The one that's got to do with the 7 days ago part of the most recent episode. The very same 7 days ago that would match the half a day or more, let's even say 8 hours, that Hope spent on Sanctum before going through the anomaly with Gabriel and Echo and ending up with Orlando for the following 5 years. We're gonna talk about that later though. The second calculation, the one in the middle, that's all about the 10 seconds that it took Octavia, to go through and come back. Gonna talk about that as well, because that's the calculation I'm probably gonna end up going with. But okay, what else have we got over here? Now right after Octavia makes it to Skyring, Dioza tells her that she's been on Skyring for 3 months. That's when Octavia tells her, I followed right through, like right behind you. Those few seconds that we watched on episode 8 of season 6 between Dioza leaving and Octavia leaving, those 6 seconds, those were equivalent to 3 months on Skyring, assuming that this calculation is correct, not saying it is correct because I don't think it is. But on the same episode as well, Hope does mention that Octavia, she kept trying to get back home for 6 years and that she was on Skyring for a total of 10 years. Hope also spent 1 day in Sanctum before making it back to Skyring, 1 or half a day. She does say it was a day, but I think it was more like half a day or a little bit less, like sometime between noon when she made it, tagged Octavia, ended up unconscious, ran from Gabriel and Echo, found that message in her arm, came back, ended up fighting the disciples, and finally during the night, sometime during the night, she ended up going through the anomaly with the 2 of them. During episode 2 as well, Hope does mention that she spent a total of 20 years on Skyring prior to everything that followed. From her getting to Bardo post-death, saving Octavia, spending a whole bunch of days over there after sending Octavia, because Hope also did get captured. Hope actually spent a total of 24 days as the prisoner of the disciples and as a prisoner of Anders. But alright, given what we watched on both the 2nd and 4th episodes of this season, we do know that Echo, Hope, and Gabriel, along with Orlando, ended up staying on Skyring for a total of 5 years. But that's all on the Skyring side. There's also the Bardo side, which comes to be clearer when we watch the 5th episode of the season. Now 45 days prior to present day, we had the captured Octavia and Dioza make it for the first time to Bardo. 34 days prior to present day, that's when she made the deal, Octavia, with Levitt to hide everything that he found out about Hope in return for her giving him the information that he needs. Okay, 31 days prior to present day is when we watched that crush, that fascination that he's got with Octavia and her history. The moment that Hope walked in and tried to save Octavia as well, that's a total of 14 days so far that Octavia has spent on Bardo. And this is exactly where we get the data for our conversion. Now the Bardo to Skyring bit is never really a problem. It's almost identical for all calculations, even the one that I'm assuming is completely horrible and does not match anything else. Bardo to Skyring has always been accurate. The part that the series seemed to mess up is the Sanctum to the other 2 part, the conversion between Sanctum and Bardo and Sanctum and Skyring. Now, as I mentioned moments ago, if we assume that the 6 seconds is the way to go, or the 10 seconds is actually the way to go, the Bardo-Skyring time dilation relationship will remain the same for both, which is basically 1 Bardo day being equivalent to 257 days on Skyring, or in other words, 8.5 months. From the Skyring perspective, 1 Skyring year would be the equivalent of 1.4 days on Bardo, which is basically 1 day, 9 hours, and 36 minutes, roughly speaking. Once again, give or take a few minutes. But the discrepancy between these two calculations arises when you're trying to convert all these to Sanctum time, because with the 6-second calculation, 1 Skyring year would be equivalent to 24 seconds on Sanctum, and 1 Sanctum second would be equivalent to 15 days on Skyring. That means that Octavia should have taken a total of 8 minutes to go through the anomaly, spend her time with Dioza, end up on Bardo, and then come back, falling into Gabriel's arms, and that's instead of the 10 seconds that we watched on Season 5. That would also mean that 1 Sanctum second would be equivalent to 84 minutes on Bardo. But if we go and assume the 10-second scenario that it took Octavia to go into the anomaly, spend all that time, and then come back, and consider this as the right amount of time, this is the amount of time we will use to calculate the conversion between Sanctum and the other 2 planets, we're gonna get a different result. Okay, so in this case, 1 Sanctum second would end up being 720 days on Skyring. That's a huge jump really, that's 48 times the previous number that we had from the other calculation. 1 year on Skyring in that case would be the equivalent of half a second on Sanctum. Now we get the same results when working out the same calculation for Bardo, because 1 Sanctum second would be the equivalent of 2.8 days on Bardo. That is 2.8 days up from 84 minutes. I'm not even gonna go through the other calculation, the third one, the one where Hope spent almost half a day, or 8 hours even on Sanctum, and then 5 years on Skyring, with all of this time equating to 7 days on Bardo, because that calculation would be a total mess, astronomically and completely different than these 2 calculations. But considering things that were said on the most recent episode, the 5th episode of the season, I'd say that the 10 seconds calculation is actually the correct one, because Levitt does tell Octavia that she would return seconds after she left, like she never left really. So the 10-second scenario is the most suitable scenario over here. The other one would mean she should have returned 8 minutes later, which is not really seconds after she left. Now this means that the winning calculation is 1 Bardo day is 257 Skyring days, 1 Skyring year would be 1 day, 9 hours, and 30 minutes in Bardo time, 1 Sanctum second would be 720 Skyring days, and 1 Skyring year would be half a second in Sanctum, and finally 1 Sanctum second would be 2.8 Bardo days. Now that would mean that time on Skyring is moving faster than on Bardo, and time on Bardo is moving faster than on Sanctum, and that would also explain why both Hope and Octavia did lose their memories, moving from Bardo to Sanctum, because as Levitt mentioned, when you go through the anomaly without the helmet, from a planet or a moon on which the time is moving faster to one on which the time is moving slower, you end up losing your memories. It doesn't happen the other way around. Now that would also explain why the team that ended up in Nakara at the end of episode 4 without helmets, without using helmets to go through the anomaly, are not really losing their memories. Nakara is probably going to end up having a similar time dilation relationship with Sanctum to the one that Sanctum has with both of Bardo and Skyring. Sanctum is definitely moving at a slower pace. But alright though, this video, this entire time dilation thing is explained through Octavia's arc, so this video is really dedicated to the character. There are other things about Octavia that we do need to talk about, like the final statement that she made on Season 6, because now we know that she's met Anders before that moment that Hope tagged her. That is why when Hope seemingly stabs her when she was actually tagging her in order to send her to Bardo through the anomaly, she does tell him it's done. And I think what she's saying over here is tell Anders it is done. Like, you've completed your mission. You should be able to get your mother back. Octavia over there is making a statement that tells us she is sacrificing herself in order for Hope to get her mother back. I think that's it really. That's all we know. That's all we could explain. I mean, the Octavia bit was pretty straightforward. We now know that when she went the first time through the anomaly, that's the time that she ended up with Dioza and then ended up taken to Bardo. The second time around, when she was tagged by Hope, that's when she ended in Bardo for the second time. You know, the time where she saw Bellamy, the time where she ended up thinking that Bellamy was dead. But with that said, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments down below if there is anything else you want me to talk about, possibly on my review of next week's episode or on a separate video. Let me know as well if you agree with me on choosing the calculation that's closest to what Levitt said on the 5th episode. And finally, let me know if you did like this video by dropping it one of those much appreciated likes, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updates whenever I upload a new video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, thank you so much for tuning in to this video. Stay safe and have a great day.